So as you know that these sessions are being organized by India International Education Council and School Lalaji Solutions. India International Education Council is a, a not-for-profit organization which is working in the field of education. We have collaborators from 12 countries. IIEC aims to create a better world through education. It also tries to find, it also trying to build quality centers for elementary education, which are approachable for all kids. It is also trying to find best educational practices across the globe and find ways to implement those practices, among Indian institutions. It is also trying, it's creating more awareness on hygiene and learning disabilities. It publishes a magazine called World Education Review and many other educational reports. It aims to build 100 chapters in different cities by 2022. It will soon open its membership for institutions and individuals. It also imparts training for leaders, teachers, students, and parents. As I shared that, this is a 77th session. So far, we have organized 76 sessions. In these sessions, we have received 7,076 registrations, 6,228 questions. We have seen participation from 5 countries: India, USA, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, Nepal. From India, we have seen participation from 19 states and 79 cities. We aim to organize 200 sessions. With this, we would be reaching out to 100,000 educators, 20,000 institutions, and 1,000 plus eminent speakers would be joining us to share their perspective, like as today's key speakers have joined us. So, with this, I would request please join me in welcoming our key speakers. Our first key speaker, Dr. Ina Banerjee ma'am. Dr. Banerjee is principal with the Himalayan Public School, Dehradun, Uttarakhand. She is MSc Botany, PhD, and B.Ed. Dr. Banerjee has an experience of 27 years in teaching. She has been recognized and awarded many times for her contribution to the field of education. We welcome you, Banerjee ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, Jyoti Sharma ji. Jyoti ji is principal with Greenwood Public School, Gurugram, Haryana. She is MCom, MA, MBA in Education Management. She has 22 years of experience. She has received many awards and accolades like Inspiring Educator Award, National Teachers Prestige Award, Best Principal Award. We welcome you, Jyoti ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, Dr. Meenakshi Gupta ji. Dr. Gupta is principal with SD Public School, Patel Nagar, Delhi. She is a PhD in education, MPhil, CIEFPL, MA. She's the distinguished and innovative school leader with 27 years of experience. She's a member of Women in School Leadership program, which is a part of Ministry of Education, Victoria, Australia. She's also a CBSC COE, which is a Center for Excellence resource person. She has presented papers at All India Leaders Conference, World Education Summit, Maverick Teachers Global Summit. Her school has been accredited as the Microsoft Showcase School by Microsoft, an International School Award, for 2013 to 16 by British Council. She has also received Paryavaran Dronacharya Award by Indian Center for Wildlife and Environmental Studies. She has also received Appreciation Award by Confederation of UNESCO Clubs and Association of India, among many other prestigious awards. Welcome, ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, Ms. Jyotsana Gururaji. Jyotsana ji is a former principal with the RB Kariya English School, Mumbai, Maharashtra. She's a life sciences graduate. She has also done post graduation diploma in psychological counseling, masters in psychological counseling and psychotherapy from Institute of Behavioral and Management Sciences. She has also been appointed as Joint Secretary Maharashtra, India for Global Youth Parliament. She has received many awards and recognitions like Active Teacher Award 2011, National School Award 2018, Nation Builder Award, Teachers Excellence Award 2018, Global Leadership Award 2019, Acharya Chanakya Shiksha with Samman, Vishwa Shiksha with Samman 2020. We welcome you, Jyotsana ma'am. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, Seema Vatsaji. Seema Vatsaji is principal with RCSD Modern Public School, Delhi. She has a distinguished career as an academician with decades of experience. She has been recognized and awarded for her contribution to the field of education many times. We welcome you, Seema ji. Thank you for joining. It's an honor to have you. Our next key speaker, Dr. Anjali Priyadarshini ji. Dr. Anjali is an associate professor with SRM University, Haryana. Anjali ji has done her post graduation from Banaras Hindu University and doctorate from a postgraduate Institute of Medical Education and Research, Chandigarh. She has more than 12 years of teaching and research experience. Her research interests are infectious disease, immunology, biosensor, and cancer biology. She was recently awarded with a project by ICMR and has published 4 different books. We welcome you, Anjali ma'am. Thank you for joining. Our next key speaker, Mr. Sunil Dangi. Sunil ji is co-founder and CEO of eMango Solutions. Sunil ji is an IIT graduate. He has a master's degree in mathematics and scientific computing. He's an actuary and member on Institute of Actuary United Kingdom. He has worked with ICICI Prudential, HSBC, and financial risk advisor at Ernst& Young. He's an entrepreneur for last 6 years in telecom, food, and education sector. He has been doing research on career counseling for last 2 years, and based on that research, they have come up with a wonderful solution called eMango, which is a digital career counseling platform. So, on behalf of Mr. Sunil, her co-founder, Mr. Nitin Nagpal, have joined us today. Welcome, Nitin ji. Our next key speaker for the day, in fact, the last key speaker for today's session, Mr. Savio John. He's a national head of quality with Torrens. Savio is a professional musician. He's a specifically a singer, songwriter, guitarist. He has been performing since a very young age and has toured multiple cities, performing in various venues. He is also a gospel musician and has featured on multiple TV shows. He is currently working with Torrens Music and heading quality and delivery excellence in India. Since the past 8 years, he has been working with institutions engaged in vocational education, handling business development and strategy and implementation. Savio has always been very vocal about making music a compulsory subject in education, as creativity, discipline, and communication that it demands would help students become better individuals. Savio has authored the vocal curriculum for Torrens and conducts vocal workshops across various schools. We welcome you, Savio John. Thank you for joining. With this, we'll formally begin the session. I would request all our key speakers if we can have your, a quick 1 minute opening remark to set the tone for the session, and then I'll come back to you for your, main talk, detailed deliberation. So I would request Dr. Enough Energy, ma'am. Ina, ma'am, if we can begin with you, if we can have your quick 1 minute opening remark. Ma'am, you're on mute. Ina, ma'am.
Greetings of the day to everyone. And it's a very great day when we all are sitting at one platform to discuss about the national education policy. And this long awaited policy is now very soon implemented in our education system, and I hope we with the with the great educators, with the with the help of the parents, we are going to achieve the success. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Certainly, we need that active involvement of parents to make it successful.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll come back to you. I would request Meenakshi, ma'am, if we can have your opening remark. You are on mute too, ma'am. You are on mute.
A very good morning, all of you, and it's really a pleasure to have a company, a galaxy of all the intellectuals talking about something which is of the most important priority for all of us, because we all are catering to the school education system, and we have been waiting for this change for a long time, because we have entered in 21st century and we were following the policy which was amended in 1992, which was formulated in 86. So we needed to go for a change as per the requirement. And I think we all need to browse a lot about it so that we can prepare ourselves and give a proper starting initiating this policy in a proper manner. So congratulations to and thank you to the organization for giving us this platform where we can browse on the various aspects of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. Certainly, we need to explore and find solutions in collaboration. Thank you, Meenakshi ji. We'll come back to you. With this, I would request Josana ma'am, if we can have your quick 1 minute opening remark.
Good morning, everyone. It's pleasure being on a single platform with all eminent educators. Education nowadays is expanding to skill generation too, because that is what leads to the competency. In this COVID era, the skill development is not just limited to students, but it is there for teachers and principals as well. We have the challenge now to move from rote learning to experiential learning, from knowledge based to skill based, and the education has to be based on competency and skill development. We have to change pedagogy and we have to make the child curious. The emphasis on teachers is most crucial as the 21st century skill integration is must for those who are the front runners, our teachers. Also, the occasional education and evolvement of teaching methodology are the game changers now. Peer learning, sports, and life skills are those missing links that can really lead India to the international forums, and the successful implementation of NEP 2020 is definitely going to ensure that India evolves as the global educational leader. With this, I say that with the support of teachers, principals, and parents, we can definitely successfully implement NEP. Though we get some glitches, we have hurdles to implement, but with the support and coordination and collaboration, we can definitely successfully implement NEP 2020. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. For this successful implementation, we must connect the dot and find a roadmap. Thank you, Josana ma'am. We'll come back to you. I would request Seema ma'am, if we can have your opening remark. Uh, Seema ma'am, I believe she's facing some technical glitch. Now, I would request Anjali ji, if we can have your opening remark.
Okay, wish you all a very good morning and a happy new year. So this new year, like this, the much awaited new education policy, it's now being it's in the process of being implemented, and this platform, it has brought all of us involved in school education and higher education at single platform, and we are given this opportunity to discuss this together to how to move forward. The most important part, which has been focused on this new education policy, is the interdisciplinary approach. Like everything, whatever policy had we had been following, they have been segregated. Like all of us were working in a silo: science people, arts people, commerce people. Now everything we need to interact with each other, and due to this interdisciplinary approach, a lot of problems, particularly related to health sciences, since I am from biomedical engineering, so I am very much interested in all the health aspects of this. And this, I simply, a person from biology cannot do it. So an interdisciplinary approach is required, and which is being put forward by this national education policy, and I'm really looking forward to it. And of course, we need the support of all the principals, teachers, and the parents to bring forth the students to be ready for this particular kind of education. Thank you.
Thank you, Anjali ma'am. Certainly, we need to connect the higher education and the school education, and this policy, gives us a way to do that. Thank you, Anjali ma'am. We'll come back to you. With this, now I would request Nitin ji, if we can have your opening remark.
Thank you, Rajul, and good day, everyone. Rajul, first of all, I would like to congratulate you and thank you as well for bringing all of us together. And at the same time, I would like to thank everyone for taking out your precious time in order to contribute to the students. Uh, Education is not the lighting, not the filling of a pail, but lighting of a fire. And NEP 2020 has at least ignited the fire in all the educators. Learning, unlearning, and relearning are the three basic principles of any education. And NEP 2020 is making sure that we unlearn whatever we have learned in the last 3 decades and we relearn the new methods that are required. Thank you, Rajul. Thanks, everyone.
Absolutely, absolutely. Learning and unlearning. But the key question is what to learn and what to unlearn. So much of information. So we'll discuss that part. We'll come back to Nitinji. Thank you for your remark. I would request now Sebio John. Sebio, if we can have your opening remark.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Rajulji, thank you for having me on board here as a panelist, with such an august, eminent, a panel of such eminent personalities. And I'm looking forward to this discussion. And going through the NEP, I have realized it talks a lot about art, classics, history, literature, music. And since I belong to the music fraternity, since from the music background, I represent the company Torrens. I feel that this is a very, very welcome move. That music itself has been mentioned over 20 times in the NEP. And I look forward to the rest of this discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebio. Certainly, music has received great attention in this national education policy.
Yes.
And we would like to understand more from you, the kind of evolution it can have. Thank you, Sebio. We'll come back to you. So with this, we, come to the second part of this session, which is the main talk session. All these speakers, I would request to share their, interpretation on national education policy and what they understand the kind of impact it can have in coming time. Also, before I invite our first speaker, Enough Energy ma'am, I would like to share the learnings from the last 76 sessions. Almost every participant have shared that this is a wonderful document. This document has potential to place India, at that stage of that Vishwaguru in terms of knowledge and gyan. But almost everyone, believes that execution is going to be very, very challenging. So many learned, education leaders have participated and shared that, there are many challenges like finance. There are other challenges like teachers training. Yeah, there are many people believe digital infrastructure, the COVID exposed that kind of, lack of digital infrastructure. So we believe that everyone has smartphone, the internet has got its penetration, but COVID exposed that. So I would request all our speakers, if while sharing your perspective and thought, if you can also suggest some suggestions or a roadmap so that we all can learn and we all can try to execute that. Now I would request Enough Energy ma'am. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah. The topic which I have selected is the Early Childhood Care National Challenge with the Global Perspective. I will start my speech with the definition of education given by Swami Vivekanand. The definition is very, very clear and it is very, very related to the present scenario. The education means the process by which character is formed, strength of mind is increased, and intellect is sharpened, as a result of which one can stand on one's own feet. By giving education, we need to create the good human being. So this was the definition, and in the present scenario also, we see that actually the students are doing their well. They are doing extraordinary. They all are scoring 100% marks. But what is the focus? It should be that, are they really a good human being? So for that, I appreciate this national education policy, and which was the long overdue reform in the Indian education sector. This policy talks about the universalization. The term universalization is mentioned many times in the policy, and this is actually the challenging part. With the global perspective, it will be a big challenge for us, for everyone. Now, the national education policy for the early childhood care and education which is the foundation of education, says that universal provisioning of quality childhood development, care and education must be achieved as soon as possible and not later than 2030. Then they said the overall aim of ECCE will to attain optimal outcomes in the domains of physical and motor development, cognitive development, social, emotional, ethical development, cultural, artistic development, and the development of communication and early language literacy and numeracy. A national curricular and pedagogical framework for early childhood care and education for children up to the age of 8 will be developed by NCERT. The numerous rich local traditions of India developed over millennia in ECCE involving art, stories, poetry, games, songs and more will also be suitably incorporated. ECCE shall be delivered through a significantly expanded and strengthened system of early childhood education institution consisting of stand-alone Anganwadis co-located with the primary school, pre-primary school section covering at least age of 5 to 6 years correlated with the existing pre-primary schools, and some are the stand-alone the pre-primary schools. All the above would recruit workers, teachers, especially trained in the curriculum and pedagogy of ECCE. The universal access to ECCE Anganwadi centers will be strengthened. Prior to the age of 5, every child will move to preparatory classes or the Bal Vatika, that is before class 1, which has an ECCE qualified teachers. Training of current Anganwadi workers, teachers, those with qualification of 10+2 and above shall be given a 6-month certificate programs in ECCE, and those with lower education qualification shall be given a 1-year diploma program. These programs may be run through digital or distance mode, allowing teachers to acquire ECCE qualifications with the minimal disruption to their current work. The planning and implementation of early childhood care and education curriculum will be carried out jointly by the Ministry of HRD, Women and Child Development, Health and Family Welfare, and Tribal Affairs. So these are the major points. But now what I would like to say that number one question arises in my mind: do we have passionate teachers? How should we prepare the parents for this big change? Because our parental mind setup is very, very what you say, it is a very, very rigid kind of. They have set in their mind if child is going to school, he has to learn ABCD, he has to learn the academics only, and that is very major thing. Then majority part of our country is in rural areas. I'm not talking about the urban areas or these well-established schools. They will provide everything, but what will be happening with the rural areas? Now, I think the team has to be ready soon now. Although the teachers are getting training with the help of the Diksha app, and they are doing it well, ECCE is extremely exceptional program, but it depends a lot on the leaders, trainers to make it success. Because we have many entities, like Anganwadi workers are there, then we have ashram shalas, we have madrasas. So now at one platform when we'll train them, so I think it will be a very difficult thing, because when we talk about the universalization, it means the child who comes from the Anganwadi to the class 1, or if he comes from any ashram shala to the class 1 of any public sector school or in any public school, or he comes from the madrasa to the class 1 of any public school, they should have the same kind of curriculum. So that is the big challenge for us, to train the team from every part of the country.
Now, ultimately, what I feel that teachers are the lifeline of any school or organization. Without them, we cannot work. So now how we channelize them in the right direction? This will be also a very big challenge for us, because sometimes like what happens, I have seen that the teachers, they like most of the teachers are like they come from they don't come by the choice. Sometimes they come by the chance also, especially in the pre-primary section. Like most of our teachers come from chance in the profession, not by their choice. I feel training and the brain exercise, brainwash is required at all the level, and if we really want to appreciate the new education policy. And we need to tap the passionate teachers and giving them wings also to fly and to do their best. Now, we have the team, like if we select the team and if we proceed with it, and it's a big challenge, and I know our teachers are going to work very hard, but the parental mindset, we have to change it very soon, because they only know that A for apple only. They are not ready to accept A for alligator or A for ant. Or when we do the coloring, they use the red color only for the apple. They don't use the yellow or the green apple. They don't want to see it. So that perspective we have to change, because without it, we will not be able to go ahead. Because in every parents-teacher meeting, when I say the parents come, that teacher has not completed the syllabus, because in the parental mind of our Indian society is like that only. The school child is going to school, it means he has to finish all the textbook from A to Z with the last pages, and they don't see the other part, how other things he is capturing. So that is a very big challenge for us, and I hope we will change this. Then this NEP is very good for everyone, and what I appreciate is the holistic development of the child. Holistic development is not only for the academic, for everything. And even the report card which we'll prepare, it based on the 360-degree assessment. And that, does it mean that a student will self-assess themselves? No. And there will be a peer assessment also, it will be there. But I think we should go with this 360-degree assessment, and we slowly, I think we'll introduce this process also in the parental mind, that no, this is very important. The academic, in spite of the academic, the other things are very important for us. The system looks like, but it is actually tight also, and I think this is the very good for the upcoming teachers. The students, those who really wants to become the teacher, they can go ahead for the after 3 years of the after completing the class 12th, they will go with the 4 years B.Ed course, and I think then they will be trained from the root level, and they'll teach in a proper manner, and they will follow everything. And another challenge which I feel that we cannot put all the things together so easily, and because too many things may collapse the system also. So first we have to train the teachers, then again we have to train the parents also. Parental counseling is also important, and because see, in our India, one-fifth of our population is student and teachers. So it is a huge population. So we need to train them, and we have to then only we can implement. Then another thing in ECC is very important, because they say they are going to train the parents also, from the age of the 0 to till 3 years, the parental counseling will be there. So for that we need to train our Anganwadi and health workers also, because they are going to communicate with the parents and the teachers for the preparation. And another important thing which is our teachers are doing their best, but they have to come back in the classrooms with their flying colors. Like they cannot only write that hydrogen and oxygen makes the water, but they have to prove also. So, but this cannot be proved. And you cannot prove in the classroom that how the hydrogen and oxygen react and forming the water. So, like we have to take other some activity-based learning. So we like the whole academic syllabus will be changed, and it will be the very interesting that if teachers can show the things in the classroom. If teacher is teaching the flower, so they should take the flower in the classroom, or they should take the children to the garden only to teach the children. So because the NEP says that for this education policy, they don't require any huge infrastructure. We can start school under the tree also. So that is the main aim, that the child should have the free environment. We have to avoid the rote learning. We have to nurture them. We should not tell them that through cramming only you learn and you get the 100% marks in the result. So there will be many changes. Let's see how we are going to do. But I am sure that we all are, the way we all are welcoming this new education policy, we are going to get the success. There are many other things also, like the bagless days, like children should come in the school without the bags. The whole day will be the activity-based learning day, and where they can go with the many activities. And for the senior classes, so many other things are also there, like NCC and guide and all the things. Physical activity will be implemented. So this was my opinion about the ECCE. It is a big challenge, no doubt about it. It won't be very easy to implement, but before that we need a proper trained team. So with this short speech, I conclude my session, and I hope that you all are going to train your teachers, and all my colleagues are over here and they all know how we all have to come up with this, and I am sure that within by 23 we'll be ready for this NEP. Thank you.
Thank you, Ina ma'am, for sharing these things. And you talked about universalization as a key challenge, and you also talked about the challenges of lack of passionate teachers and the proactive cooperation from parents. You also talked about the ready platforms we have, like kind of Anganwadis, Ashramwadis, and Ashram Shalas, and madrasas. But you also commented, like many other speakers have also commented, that teachers are the soul. They are the lifeline. They are the souls. But souls to a body which they did not want to. So they are out of without their choices. Most of the teachers have opted for this profession, and teachers training certainly would be a huge requirement. So a big thanks, Ina ma'am. We'll come back to you with questions. With this, I would request Meenakshi ma'am, if we can have your ideas, your perspective on national education policy. Meenakshi ma'am.
Thank you so much. I would just like to not focus myself on one particular aspect, because any policy or any document which comes to an academician is a whole complete thing that we should look upon. As far as my understanding of this document is concerned, I can bifurcate into two areas of challenges as a school head that I can see is, one is about the curriculum and the other is about the pedagogy. A lot of emphasis here has been given on a complete makeover of the pedagogy that teachers are using in the classroom, and of course that is all connected to the kind of the changes in the curriculum that we can find. Curriculum, I'm not talking about the curriculum framework that will be made by the NCERT, but I'm talking about the changes that have been initiated, because it's a complete overhauling when we talk about like right now ma'am said about the ECCE. So it is it is very provocative on our part that we should look into this document as not just a challenge, but also a change maker for the future generations. When we talk about ECCE, we talk about experiential learning, we talk about activity-based learning, we talk about hand-on activities. So that complete mindset, as my previous speaker has very rightly said, that there is a need to bring a change in the complete mindset. Before bringing it to the parents, we need to bring it to ourselves as teachers also. We need to realize that now this is high time. We should not just be focused on the content-based teaching learning. We have to shift our focus towards the conceptual learning that a child has to go about. Instead of telling the child what is A and what is B, why not let the child explore what the child will? We have to, why not create those spaces in the classrooms where the child explores and learns and imbibes the things rather than learning the things. So that is basically the aspect that I could find out about ECC. That is my understanding of ECC, is that when we have to prepare the child for the foundation years. When the child goes to class 1 and 2, we are talking about the numeracy and literacy. So this is not just, we can say, limited to the various different levels of the schools. Rather, it is basically towards the SDG 4 that we are talking about, universalization of the literacy and numeracy in our country. So how we, as you can say, good schools or elite schools, go about it, it is, what is required. I think that we need to go a little step ahead and think in the universal way rather than talking in our compartments. So I think that is the basic gist of NEP. When we were having a brainstorming with other principals, and we were talking about that how we have to go about, many of the schools, I do not know about the other cities, but in Delhi there are a lot of schools which are connected with some of the government schools, or some of the schools where the children from the underprivileged classes are coming. So how we can extend ourselves to bring that aim, that the objective that NEP is talking about, that first I think is a challenge for us. Then secondly, NEP has talked a lot about digitalization. So with this 1 year of Corona time, we all have become very fluent and experts in using online platforms, but still India is such a diverse country. When we are talking about the digitalization, how we are going to reach to each and every child who is living at the remote area of India. So that is a big challenge that we as educators have to talk, somehow, we prepared some podcast for CBSE. That was for the children who who did not have an access to the net. They could not have an access to the online classes. They could not have an access to the smartphone. So what was done was that they were given those podcasts, those chapters, those small contents were prepared. So we have to think of those out of the box ideas where we can make this NEP implemented in the real sense. Because see, the schools in metropolitan, all the elite schools, it's not a big problem for them to do. But when we talk about NEP into the real context, it comes to reaching out to the last child, who doesn't have an access to any, facility. How we will reach that child who is living in a remote area of our country. So that is what I think the big challenge is. And the main aspect that really attracted me about NEP was the inclusion. NEP is talking a lot about inclusion. We are talking about the inclusion of not only the CEWS in children, but rather we are talking about the inclusion in the broader sense. We are talking inclusion on the basis of the gender. We are talking inclusion on the basis of the, the physical, mental, whatever are the, the disparities. We want all of them to come together. So how this digitalization and the use, and it's very clearly mentioned over there that use of digitalization for Divyangs. So how many of us have equipped our teachers? That we have to talk about, that each and every teacher who is teaching in the class, and where there is some one or the two or the three, maybe more children who have this, the special need that we have to cater to. are each and every teacher in my school capable of handling that, using technology, using digitalization, using all those methods where I can in a real manner become an inclusive setup for my children? This is what I think NEP is aiming for, though we all are doing that. We have inclusion policy in our schools, but again that has a lot of ifs and buts around it. So when we are talking about NEP is talking about universalization of the education, not only on the basis of economically or you can say the learning gaps or the learning differences, but it is also talking about more on the different kind of the cognitive differences that the children have, physical differences that the children have, or the any kind of difference that is there, but each and every child should get the similar same quality education. If you see the opening remark in NEP, it is very evidently said that it should be the qualities, the equity and quality education that should be provided to the children. And that is what SDG goal is, that every child is should have an access to the equal and similar quality of education. That disparity between one school level of one school and the other level of school should go away. And it's a huge thing in a diverse country like India. It's a huge challenge, and no doubt it's going to take a lot of efforts for that. And another important thing that I wanted to draw attention was about when NEP is talking about this CPD, that is compulsory professional development hours, 50 hours. It says that including the principal, every teacher should have 50 hours of compulsory professional development training. So when we are talking about giving those 50 hours of compulsory professional development training to each and every teacher, we need to develop that mechanism. And that mechanism cannot be developed only on the from the government perspective. Everything cannot be done by the government. We are Indian citizens. We have a lot of, no doubt, our responsibilities, but we have a lot of our duties also. And being educators, I think being head of the schools, this is one of the major challenge that every head of the school, at least I'm facing, that how to manage those 50 hours of effective, not on the paper, because many of the times I see teachers go for in-service trainings, they listen over there, they understand everything, but when it comes to the real implementation in the class, it doesn't work. So how that compulsory professional development 50 hours in an academic session, how we have to manage them and how we have to make it effective, and that entire system in the school, I think it's going to be a complete, that is what I think each and every, I can make it out that each one of us is busy planning in our mind that how we are going to do, what changes we have to do, how we have to meet that challenge, and how we have to meet this challenge. So that is what one of the important aspect that I found in NEP. And when we talk about the division, we are coming to 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4 from 10 plus 2. Again, as very rightly said, changing the mindset of the parents. It's really a Herculean task, but we have to do it. And I think it is the parents are happy. Parents are satisfied when they find something which is giving a good result for their child. So that lot of emphasis, I think every principal and every teacher has to do a lot on the parent counseling, where they are told, because I personally have taken a session with my parents of my school on NEP, that what exactly is NEP and how they should be at least get a taste what exactly is NEP and what changes the school will bring about it. So how we go about it, and the one of the key factor that I found about the NEP is the best thing that I can say about the NEP was when we say that it is emphasizing more on vocational. In class 6, we are talking about vocational studies, and I think this is the high time when in India we should segregate education from earning money, because every parent send the child to the school with the notion he will study and then he will be able to earn money. But education is a separate thing. Earning money is a separate thing. So let children be equipped to get those skills where they can earn their livelihood. And I think that specialization needs to be done at a very early age, coming to class 6, where the child can go to any of the vocational subject, and then lot of inclusion. And when I talk about the inclusion, lot of inclusion can be done from the community side, also from the parent side also. When they are being a part of the process in the school, they'll be coming for all these kind of activities. And I think that they will start shouldering the responsibilities. That will make them little more responsible when they will be becoming a part of it. And one thing that I want to talk about is about when we say that it is about the 360-degree report card, and when we talk about the assessment, even the NEP has very clearly said that the board exams will be made lighter, and it will be more on the concept, kind of assessment, rather than the academic kind of rote learning kind of thing should be. So I think each and every educator, we all know that examination, assessment, evaluation is there for as a washback effect. They have a washback effect. So I think that the way we have been using this entire system of examination, where the child was just checked for how much the child has learned, and then we move ahead. So that was the kind of gaps that were there from going from one standard to another. How much the child has learned, fine, this much percentage. Now whatever the child has not learned, we are not bothered, we have moved the child to the next class, and the next syllabus will start. So those learning gaps were the real problem creators to develop a good a scholar, or you can say a good academic performance that could be shown among the children. So I think that this new education policy has got a complete details, or you can say a complete overhauling of the entire system of education, where we can work on the academic excellence of the children. Because see, there is no distinction now. A child who wants to study physics is equally free to study music. So what the child wants to do, I think we are hardly bothered what the child really wants to do. I know even in class 11th or 12th, when a child is asked, what do you want to do? We will see, ma'am, how much percentage I will get, where I would get admission. So that is the entire system of that thought process has to be changed, where the child knows in the very beginning what is attracting the child, what is the passion that the child wants to work on, and then let the child work on, and let the entire system of the school, the entire processes in the school enhance that passion and give those skills. And to conclude, I would just say that when we talk about 21st century, as I said in my initial remark also, that we need to prepare successful human beings for 21st century. And so NEP has specifically, very categorically emphasized on life skills. So I think that was till now, we know CBSE was working. I myself am a resource person for the life skills, and I have been conducting a lot of workshops, but I know it was still a kind of a compartmentalization. So when life skill becomes a way of teaching the children, when life skill becomes a part of the pedagogy in the classroom, I think only then this NEP will become successful. And I'm very sure, with all the enthusiastic principals I have met, and here also on the platform, I can see together we will, and I am very sure we will. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meenakshi ma'am, and certainly we will. And you talked about very important points. You talked about the life skills need to be part of our academic system. You also talked about that we need to create an environment where students are encouraged to ask questions, to explore things, rather than to receive things as they are. You also talked about that we need to as a parent we need to change our perspective, that we must go for the we must connect education with the earning things. Irony is that education, our current system of education, is not helping us in earning money. So there are many reports which suggest that 82% graduates are not even employable. So what we are focusing upon, so absolutely you were right when you said that the integration of vocational education, would be a revolutionary, I would say, milestone kind of thing. So thank you, Meenakshi ma'am. We'll come back to you with questions. With this, I would request Jyotsna Gururaj ma'am. Jyotsna ji, over to you. Your interpretation, your perspective on national education policy. Jyotsna ji.
Good morning once again. A well-defined, well-planned, and progressive education policy is a must for every country because education is a cornerstone of economic and social progress. Taking into account their respective traditions and culture, different countries adopt varied education systems. Recently, the Government of India took a giant leap forward by announcing its new education policy, the National Education Policy 2020. Almost 3 decades after the last major revision was made to the policy in 1986. The National Education Policy 2020 boldly envisions three important thematic developments. Firstly, it seeks to shift from content driven curriculum that earlier inspired rote learning to applied learning. Secondly, design a 360-degree assessment model that covers educational, physical, and mental well being of the students. And lastly, experiential learning through vocational skills, mathematical thinking, and 21st century skills like data science and coding. The larger goal is to make Indian learners truly global citizens who are future ready. Today, I will be speaking about and presenting my views about putting it into practice, curriculum, and pedagogy. How to achieve holistic, integrated, inclusive, enjoyable, and engaging learning. Curriculum and pedagogy play an important role in holistic development of a child. In the present day scenario, a lot of stress is laid in acquiring a lot of marks and hands-on rote learning. This has resulted in education being ineffective, and interdisciplinary integrated learning will provoke the inquisitiveness of the child and keep him engaged and interested. Pedagogy is the overarching concept. It refers broadly to the deliberate process of cultivating development within a given culture and society. From this point of view, pedagogy has three basic components: curriculum, or the content of what is being taught; methodology, or the way in which teaching is done; and techniques for socializing children in the list of cognitive and effective skills required for successful functioning in society that education is designed to promote. It is commendable that the policy talks about introducing play activity based learning in the foundational, that is, preschool to grade 2, and preparatory grades 3 to 6 stages, and experiential learning in the middle stages, that is, grades 6 to 8, in order to make learning joyful and engaging for children. In this context, the National Education Policy suggests that the inclusion of hands-on learning, arts integrated and sports integrated education, storytelling pedagogy, among others, as standard teaching and learning strategies across different subjects. Being a curriculum designer, it's my opinion that in the foundational years, a theme-based approach is a way of teaching and learning where many areas of the curriculum are connected together and integrated within a theme. So, through theme, children get to understand their own unique strengths, explore multiple ways of learning, and also use the skills that they have been acquiring through different methodologies. I myself have implemented integrated thematic curriculum wherein Howard Gardner's multiple intelligences, and Montessori methods were integrated to give the theme based, and the children through skillful planning and the curriculum integrates into a framework that helps children to be introduced to life skills, academic skills, understanding one's own unique skills, critical thinking, and ample of opportunities are provided for children to learn social, cognitive, emotional, and physical development, which are recognized as equally valuable assets, which are reflected in the curriculum. So, integrated thematic curriculum caters to 360 degrees and multidisciplinary approach. A holistic learning ensures that the student develops into an integrated personality who can care for himself physically, socially, emotionally, mentally, and economically. A well rounded personality is an asset to his family, society, and country, and he can rise to any challenge. So, thinking and questioning is an integral part of experiential, integrated, and holistic learning. So, we need to ask the students questions which forces them to think what they are doing. So accordingly they get to a conclusion, so there won't be any force in the studies. So for example, I can say there are 4 stages according to the Kolb cycle. For example, a boy starts riding a bicycle. This is the first stage of the cycle in which the student actively participates in the learning experience, which includes a hands-on activity. Then there is a reflective observation by the boy, what is or is not working. So during this stage, the student is encouraged to look back on the learning experience that they enjoyed. Then the abstract conceptualization. So he thinks how to improve his next ride. The third stage requires the students to take their activity one step further and develop a theory or conceptualize a model based on what he experienced. And the last one, the active experimentation. He attempts on a new way to write. That is the final stage requires students to test what he has learned, and he gets to learn more and implement more of new way of learnings. So well-designed experiential learning activities are an excellent combination of learning, understanding, doing, and reflection. Each aspect enhances the others, resulting in knowledge and skills development, the deep understanding of the subject matter and of complex concepts, and the ability to apply the concepts in practice in a process that encourages critical thinking in future professionals. To do this, still maintain academic rigor is the challenge that educators need to address in designing meaningful experiential learning curriculum and engaging activities. So the activities include field trips, group work in and out of the classroom, and open-ended discussion, open-ended questioning guidance. So here in experiential learning, the teacher becomes more of a facilitator when designing the experiential learning activity. The facilitator presents challenges or problems and then allows the students freedom to come up with ways of solving the problem. The facilitator can then observe and guide learning as it is actively taking place. This means that issues and misunderstandings can be addressed immediately as part of the learning process rather than corrected at a later stage after the project have been completed, making it a far more active problem-solving process. As an impact of the changes introduced by National Education Policy, inclusive learning provides all students with access to flexible learning choices and effective paths for achieving educational goals in spaces where they experience a sense of belonging. In an inclusive education environment, all children, regardless of disability or ability, learn together in the same age-appropriate classroom. So here, the major focus the teachers has to put on is the general education teachers and special education must work together in the classroom, which gives additional support to the students. Teachers must use variety of techniques and resources to connect with individual learning styles. The focus must be on students' abilities, not the disabilities. So we need to encourage interaction. The course content should be of apt and flexible teaching and assessment methods should be taken, and meeting disabled students' access requirement also should be taken care of. So implementation of national education policy is a challenge in schools and colleges. So education must not only develop the cognitive skills in learners, both foundational skills of literacy and numeracy, and the high order cognitive skills like critical thinking, but also social and emotional skills known as the soft skills like empathy, grit, perseverance, leadership, and teamwork. The National Education Policy calls for such value based learning along with significant curriculum and pedagogical changes. Implementing such bold objectives will require teachers training, educators, and official staff appropriately, along with preparing a pool of excellent motivating guides. Learning has to be an enjoyable and engaging task rather than an arduous exercise, which ultimately churns out unemployable youth. The policy will have to design a learning ecosystem which takes into account the geographical and cultural diversity of our country, as well as the varied learning pace of each student. We need to hire the very best and brightest to enter the teaching profession at all levels. All teachers need to be reinstated as the most respected and essential members of our society, as they are the ones who truly shape our next generation of citizens. Work also needs to be done on removing personal and professional barriers of working in remote, inaccessible locations, which is crucial for preparing this workforce and also for making the national education policy successful. As the quote goes, I hear and I forget, I see and I remember, I do and I understand. As experiential learning allows the student to experiment with knowledge firsthand compared to traditional learning where another person's experiences are used. So the greater focus is on experiential learning, a key element in education and curriculum options. This means more projects, better life, training, more interactions, and better skills. I also wanted to say regarding the practices, like in foundational years, we take according to national education policy, it is a play-based method. So I have already implemented integrated thematic curriculum, wherein I have got large number of success in this, and our parents are also very happy because before implementing the curriculum, I have oriented the parents. So because we need to take into confidence our parents, so we can more successfully implement the curriculum. So the integrated thematic curriculum plays a large role because we have got different approaches. So one approach is not sufficient for a child because the child is having innate abilities wherein we can take it out according to the needs of the child. So the integrated thematic curriculum, it's my opinion to implement in the schools. I know it is a very difficult process to implement a thematic curriculum because we need to train the teachers accordingly. So if all the heads of the school, principals of the school take active part and help the teachers in implementing, that would be very successful, I guess. And experiential learning also, there is a strategy like we can take the integration of IB methodology, wherein the inquiry based learning happens. So it is a systematic strategy so that it caters to the experiential learning. With this, I end my speech. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to express my views and suggestions. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. You suggested, how actually we can, implement this policy, how we should implement this policy. And you also talked about that non-conventional, flexible ways of, teaching methods need to be applied. You also talked about, assessments, the kind of, experiential learning, the kind of benefits it can offer. And, this one thing has happened, and what I have realized that NEP has created that awareness among the masses that the most important years in the life of students are the early years. That I believe that kind of awareness, was there, but was limited only to I would say a certain degree of people, but not everyone recognize that part. But NEP has done that even in the beginning, even before it is formally implemented. Yes, ma'am.
One more thing I want to add. Here you said about the assessment. I just want to give a little brief. I have implemented in my school, I have taken the observation assessment, like, the testing assessment to the observation assessments. So the all the assessments are given in the all the skills. It's the holistic, the holistic development of child is put in front of the parent. Every day observation is made. The child observation record assessment is put into practice. Every child is having individual portfolios so that the parent can look into and can help in whatever way. The parent also can help and the teacher can also help, because to observe all the children and keep in the reminder, it is really absolutely impossible. So we had a personal portfolios, the observation assessment record portfolios, because I am a preschool expertise, and I have lots of passion in the preschool. So if I start speaking all these things, it will not end. So yeah, so I have implemented in wherever I have worked. I have implemented the observation and assessment records, the portfolios as well individually. So it is really very helping, and the parents also takes interest, because only showing the marks, the parents will not be interested, because they see the number, it is increasing or decreasing. But when we show the individual as rubrics, we present as rubrics and individual, that is very unbiased. The teacher also is unbiased and non-judgmental while
Right.
operation. Right. So I guess this will also help in implementing our national education policy to bring it up to a certain level.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you, Jyotsna ma'am, for those ideas and points. So with this, I would like to invite Savio here. Savio, you represent a different side of education. You represent the art side of education, in particular music. And music has received a great attention in national education policy. So before I come to Dr. Priyadarshini, I would like you to explain us, your understanding or your interpretation of a national education policy, and how do you see that? Savio, over to you.
Sure. Thank you, Rajulji. See, what is commendable is that, the NEP has addressed so many diverse aspects. And I see that there is such a lot of emphasis given on 21st century skills like communication, collaboration, creativity, critical thinking. We all have gone through the NEP quite a few times, and we are all vocal about these aspects. And I feel that the focus here will now shift, just like ma'am was speaking a little time back about how the focus is going to shift from rote learning to holistic experiential learning. Now, holistic experiential learning would begin at the fundamental level, not only at the graduation level. Plus, children need to be exposed to various aspects of education. They need to be given an idea of the various skills which are existing. How would a child know what the child is good at? Only if he is given a hands-on. Now, what happens is that the infrastructure which we have in the country currently, compared to the number of children we have, there is a serious disparity in the numbers there. I would just like to begin by taking you a few thousand kilometers from here. The United